There are two kinds of people who I do not argue and debate law enforcement topics with online. The first kind of person is a person who is a cop hater. A person who hates law enforcement for no other reason besides the media told them they should. And they've never done the job. A person who doesn't know what we go through. Will not argue with them. Also, I will not argue with a person who is overly supportive of law enforcement. Someone who thinks that as law enforcement we should be able to do whatever we do and there's no standards, no policies, no rules. That is just free-for-all for everyone. So generally, people I won't argue with is both supporters and cop haters. Anybody who's never done this job, I'm not arguing with you. I have 16 years in law enforcement, and your time in law enforcement equals to zero. Pretty much, you're equals to just watching CNN or Fox or MSNBC and think you know what's going on. You've never had a gun drawn on you, never been through anything, never been shot at, never had to slap cuffs on anybody, never been through any academy, but you think that you know what's going on. You will not argue with them. Because when it comes down to it, both sides are wrong. I've had people who highly support law enforcement who say something and I go say to them, who told you that? Where'd you learn that from? Because they're totally wrong. As being in law enforcement for 16 years now, a law enforcement instructor, owner security, and law enforcement training academy, I don't argue much with anybody. I don't argue with people about law enforcement. I don't care if you're pro-law enforcement or anti-law enforcement. If you've never done the job, if you've never been through any academy, any training, never had street time, never had a gun pulled on you, never had to slap cuffs on anybody, I'm not arguing with you. You can say you don't like me, you can say you do like me, but I don't argue in public forums with people who are not law enforcement because one side overly exaggerates what law enforcement should do and the other side, who hates us, basically will overly exaggerate what we should and shouldn't do, and they think that they know what we're supposed to do. I call these people corner store lawyers. One time I had to body slam somebody who had pulled a pocket knife on me. Could I shot him? Yeah. Didn't choose to shoot him because I was close enough that if I went and tried to draw my gun, he'd have stabbed me probably. So he was like right here. I moved his arm out the way and I body slammed him. Still had all the people with cell phone videos out there and saying, you're wrong, yelling and all that. I didn't feel like sitting there arguing with them. It might even still be up on YouTube. I know it was for a while. But I don't argue with these people because if you don't know the training, you don't know what we have to go through, policies, laws, all this, then I have no reason to argue with you because your understanding is from a place of watching the news or you're overly opinionated, not knowing what our training is, what we can and can't do. Like I said, and I'm not arguing with supporters either because they believe some wild stuff too, that they think we're allowed to just shoot anybody who comes near us, beat people up, and do all this crazy stuff, and it's okay. So, I don't argue with law enforcement supporters or law enforcement haters. That's why you see on my page, I'll put up police support stuff, but I never argue either way with people. Matter of fact, I'll delete comments or I'll turn comments off if somebody wants to argue about law enforcement topics and they're not in law enforcement.